This happened just a few weeks ago. I wanted a quiet place to focus on my work and heal after my breakup. So, I moved to a small town with brick houses and big oak trees. The first days felt peaceful. But then strange things started happening. On my second night, I woke up to tapping on my bedroom wall. I thought it was the house settling or maybe a branch scratching against it. But the tapping grew louder. I felt a tightness in my chest. It kept me awake, and when I finally drifted off, I wasn't sure what I was waking up to. Weirdness followed me into the week. I noticed my neighbor sitting on his porch, staring at my house. At all hours. I felt watched. It bothered me. I tried to ignore it. I could have sworn he smiled once, but it felt off, like something creepy was lurking behind it. One afternoon, while I was working in my living room, I heard a child's laughter. It echoed outside, right below my window. I got up to check. Nothing. Just an empty street and trees swaying. Maybe it was another kid? I brushed it off. But the laugh stuck in my mind, stirred something unsettling in me. I wanted to focus on my work, but the oddities kept piling up. The tapping returned some nights, not just on the walls but outside, too. It felt like someone was beckoning me. My heart raced each time I heard it. I wanted to believe I was imagining things, but deep down, I felt like something was wrong. Then there was the old woman across the street, Mrs. Pell, I think. She waved at me, but it felt more like a warning. One evening, I saw her watching me through her window. Her eyes were wide, hungry. Chills crawled down my spine, and I turned away quickly. I thought maybe I was just being paranoid. As time passed, I sensed something lurking in the shadows of my new neighborhood. My instincts screamed at me. I told myself it was all in my head, but anxiety clawed at me. I felt trapped. One night, just as I was about to go to bed, I heard a voice. It whispered my name from outside. A chill slammed through me. I rushed to the window, heart hammering. I needed to know who was calling. When I looked out, I almost screamed. The neighbor was standing in my yard, staring right at me, his smile stretched too wide, teeth glinting in the moonlight. I never invited him over. I felt frozen, like my body wouldn't obey my racing mind. I couldn't take my eyes off him, but I wanted to scream. Then I heard the laughter again, echoing from nowhere. It was chilling. I blinked. The neighbor was gone. My heart dropped and my body shook. What just happened? I was terrified. I didn't know what to do, but I knew I couldn't stay in that house anymore. I turned away from the window, breathless, feeling the weight of unseen eyes on me. I needed to leave. I needed to escape. But would they let me? I spent the next day in a fog. My mind was spinning, replaying the scene from last night over and over. I couldn't shake the feeling that something was terribly wrong. I debated calling a friend, but my voice caught in my throat at the thought of explaining all this. Instead, I decided to take a walk, hoping some fresh air would clear my head. As I stepped outside, the sun felt oddly bright. It brought a false sense of normalcy to the eerie atmosphere. I walked my usual loop, passing the baker and the florist. Both offered friendly smiles, but I noticed they lingered just a moment too long. I quickened my pace, unnerved. Toward the end of my route, I found myself in front of Mrs. Pell's house. The curtains were drawn tight, but I felt the weight of her gaze even through the fabric. I shivered and turned away, wanting to put as much distance between us as possible. That evening, I set my resolve to confront my neighbor, the one who'd been lurking in my yard. I couldn't live in fear anymore, but the thought made my pulse quicken. He had crossed a line, and I needed answers. When I knocked on his door, part of me expected him to leap out and attack. A minute passed, and I was ready to leave when the door creaked open. "Hey there," he greeted, his smile too wide, a bit unsettling. What's up? I hesitated, unsure how to start. I wanted to talk about last night. His eyes sparkled, and he tilted his head slightly. Last night? What about it? The casual way he said it made my stomach churn. You were in my yard. Why? His laugh was unsettling, rolling out like a cloud of smoke. Oh, that? Just wanted to see how you were settling in. You know, welcoming neighbors and all. I felt my face flush. That felt a bit invasive. He stepped a little closer, and I took a step back. Invasive? I thought it was friendly. You don't know your neighbors yet. Everyone here watches out for each other. There was something behind his words, a shadow that loomed large and sent shivers down my spine. I appreciate that, but I'd prefer my privacy. His expression shifted, the smile still plastered on but his eyes narrowing. Sure thing. Just let me know if you need anything. I'll be around. Cautiously, I backed away and returned to my house. Locking the door behind me felt like a small victory. But as night fell, I couldn't shake the heaviness in my chest. The eerie tapping began again, this time more insistent, louder. It became a slow rhythm, almost like a heartbeat. I grabbed my phone, my hands trembling. I checked the time, 11:45 p.m. Freedom outside was fading into darkness. I tried to drown out the sound, closing my eyes and focusing on my breathing. Just as I settled into a slight doze, I heard a soft knock, less forceful than before, but unmistakable. With dread pooling in my stomach, I peeked out the window. The streetlight illuminated the yard, and for a heart-stopping moment, I thought I saw a shadow move. My breath caught in my throat as I strained to see. Then everything went dark. The streetlight flickered and died, plunging me into an unsettling silence. My heart raced. I needed to know what was happening, and I felt far too exposed. But I also knew I wasn't alone in this darkness. Something, or someone, was watching me again. I sat frozen in the dark, my eyes adjusting to the absence of light. The silence pressed against my ears. A sudden rustle from the backyard made my heart jump again. I squeezed my phone tightly, its screen illuminating my trembling fingers. I turned it on, the harsh light chasing away shadows, but now I was wide awake. The tapping resumed, a slow, methodical sound intersecting the stillness. It was rhythmic and unsettling. I stood cautiously and moved to the window, peeking through the curtains. I strained to see past the veil of darkness that wrapped around the yard like a living thing. Then, out of the corner of my eye, I caught movement. I squinted, trying to make out what it was. A figure stood just beyond the edge of the tree line, cloaked in shadow. I couldn't see clearly, but I sensed it was facing my house. My heart raced. Was it my neighbor again? I felt a surge of panic. I backed away slowly, trying to keep my breathing calm. Just as I stepped back, my phone buzzed in my hand, sending a jolt through me. I nearly dropped it. It was a text from an unknown number. Don't be afraid. We're watching out for you. The words sent chills down my spine. I stared at the screen, heart thundering. Who was we? Clicking on the message confirmed that there was no name, just a number I didn't recognize. The unease settled deeper in my gut. Suddenly, the tapping intensified. It wasn't just a tap, it had grown into a pounding. I rushed to check the door, ensuring it was locked and secured. The whisper of dread wrapped tighter around me. I needed to know if someone was out there. I turned back to the window, my breath shallow. As I peered outside, a flash of movement caught my eye again. The shadow was closer, now just beyond the yard. Panic clawed at my throat. That's when I saw a glimmer of light reflecting off something metallic. My heart sank. Was it a knife? I turned away, gripping my phone like a lifeline. My first instinct was to call for help, but the thought of alerting whoever was outside made me hesitate. Instead, I quietly made my way to the back door, hoping I could sneak a look from another angle. Reaching the door, a loud crack echoed behind me, and I jumped. The noise came from the front of the house. My pulse quickened, and fear surged. I couldn't stay here, I needed to get out. As I opened the back door, the wind whipped around me, and the darkness outside felt suffocating. I hesitated for a split second, debating my next move. Before I could process it, I stepped outside into the cold night. The yard was eerily quiet. The air felt charged, as if something was about to happen. I scanned for the shadow, eyes darting everywhere but finding nothing. Just my imagination? I was about to retreat when a voice called out softly behind me. "Hey, there you are!" I spun around, heart in my throat. My neighbor stood just a few feet away, his smile wide once again. But in the dark, it felt more sinister than welcoming. "I was just checking on you," he said, stepping closer. I took a step back, every nerve screaming at me to escape. "Please just stay away," I managed to utter, the tremor in my voice exposing my fear. But as I turned to run, I felt the air shift. A new presence was lurking nearby. Someone else was there in the shadows. This time, I wasn't alone, and that realization terrified me more than anything else. I stumbled back, my heart pounding as I felt the ground beneath me shift. My instinct screamed for me to run, but I felt like I was glued to the spot. The way my neighbor looked at me, it almost felt predatory. His smile seemed to stretch as he took another step forward. "Come on, it's just me," he said, but his voice was smooth and disquieting. Just then, a darker shape loomed in my peripheral vision. I turned slightly, trying to catch a glimpse of whatever shadow was trailing me. But there was nothing, just the velvet blackness of the yard. "Where are you going?" my neighbor continued, increasing his pace. I wheeled around, propelled by fear. I sprinted toward the gate at the side of the house. The wooden slats creaked alarmingly as I pushed it open. I glanced back at him. He hadn't followed. Instead, he stood there, hands tucked in his pockets, watching me with that same unnerving grin. "What's wrong? Don't you like company?" he called after me, his voice echoing through the quiet night. I ran. The gravel crunched beneath my feet as I turned onto the sidewalk, not looking back. I didn't care where I was going, I just needed to put distance between myself and that smile. As I rushed past a row of houses, I noticed the flicker of a light through a window. It felt inviting, normal. I approached slowly, hoping to find anyone else awake. The front door swung open, revealing an older woman clutching a shawl around her shoulders. "Are you okay, dear? You look pale," she said, fear creeping into her eyes as she scanned the street behind me. I think someone is watching me," I whispered, feeling weak. She stepped aside, ushering me in. "Come inside. You're safe here." I stepped over the threshold into the warm light. But solace turned quickly to dread as I realized I had left my phone outside. Without it, I felt vulnerable. "Do you need to call someone?" the woman asked, concern etched on her face. "Yes, please." I breathed a little easier. "I can't stay out there. There's something wrong." I quickly dialed the police, relaying my fears while stealing glances through the front window. Just as the operator began asking questions, I saw movement, a shadow shifting just beyond the porch. "Stay calm, stay in the house," the woman instructed, squeezing my arm gently. Then, out of the corner of my eye, I spotted another figure at the edge of the street, my neighbor. He was no longer smiling. A chill slipped down my spine as I felt like prey. Just as I opened my mouth to say something, a loud, synchronized knock echoed on the door. I froze, feeling each thud reverberate through me. My heart sank. The woman went pale, glancing at me anxiously. Who would that be at this hour? Is someone there? I called out, praying it wasn't him. Open up, a deep voice boomed from the other side, an authority that chilled me further. It wasn't my neighbor. Stay back, I whispered to the woman, fear welling up again as I realized I wasn't just at risk from one man. I had attracted a crowd. I backed up, whispering a prayer that I wouldn't find out what happened next. The knocking intensified, each thud like a warning siren. My mind raced. Who was behind that door? I glanced at the woman, who had gone as pale as a ghost. Maybe it's just someone who needs help, she suggested, though her voice trembled. Maybe, I whispered, but my instincts shouted otherwise. No one knocks like that at midnight without intent. I swallowed hard as I moved deeper into the room, the shadows creeping in closer. I could still see my neighbor lurking outside, his eyes piercing through the darkness like a predator. It was as if the air thickened with every moment of silence that followed the knocking. I need you to stay calm, the woman urged, her eyes darting between me and the door. Before I could even try to respond, the voice returned, more insistent this time. Let me in. You're in danger. I know you can hear me. My heart raced. Did he mean me? Or was it for her? I glanced at the front door, the lock looked flimsy. Call 911, I managed to say, trying to sound braver than I felt. The woman nodded, reaching for her phone, but it slipped from her grasp, landing on the floor with a dull thud. She cursed softly and bent down to pick it up, her back turned to me. In that moment of distraction, the knocking grew louder. It was rhythmic, almost like a chant. Open up, open up. The hair on my neck stood on end. I pressed my palms against my ears, trying to block out the noise, but it echoed inside my head. I cautiously approached the door, peeking through the peephole. I gasped. It was him, the neighbor, and he had company. Others stood behind him, their faces obscured by darkness, yet I could feel their collective presence. My stomach churned. Is anyone home? The deeper voice called again, now tinged with impatience. We know you're in there. Who are they? I whispered, panic creeping into my voice. I don't know, the woman replied, her tone shaking. I don't like this. We should call the police. Now. She moved towards the phone again, but just then, the door rattled violently as someone shoved against it. I stumbled backward, bumping into the living room table. My eyes darted around for an exit. The back door? A window? But it was too risky. If they got in, I would have nowhere to hide. Suddenly, another figure emerged from the shadows, all too familiar. My neighbor stepped into the light of the porch, his expression unreadable. What's the problem? He asked, his demeanor almost casual. It was as if he were just checking in on a neighbor with a smile hanging loosely on his lips. Why are you here? You shouldn't be. I gasped, a sinking feeling gripping my chest. He tilted his head, appearing unbothered by the looming threat at the door. I thought we should all get to know each other better. After all, we are neighbors. And that is when I noticed the flickering light of the television illuminating something on the coffee table. A knife lay there, glinting ominously under its glow. Fear pulsed through me. I had been trying to find safety, but now I realized I was trapped. I took a step back, desperate to put some space between myself and the chaos closing in. Someone was in the house. In that moment, chaos erupted. The door suddenly buckled as a heavy shoulder slammed into it, sending vibrations through the walls. My heart raced, beating a frantic rhythm I struggled to control. What do we do? I gasped, my eyes wide with realization. The woman, wide-eyed and pale, was frozen, her phone still in hand. We can't let them in, she stammered, backing away from the door as if it might implode at any second. Just keep quiet. I hissed, feeling like we were playing hide and seek with our worst fears. I darted back to the coffee table and snatched the knife, the cool steel grounding me for a fleeting second. I didn't even know how to use it, but I felt better with it in my hand. The banging at the door continued harder now, desperate. "Open up. You can't hide from us," the man yelled, his voice growing impatient, almost angry. The frantic pounding made me jump, and I felt my breath hitch in my throat. "Please, I just need to get out of here," I whispered frantically to myself while my eyes searched for a way out. The window. It was a slim chance, but it was better than waiting for whoever was at that door to burst in. Before I could make a move, a loud crash resonated throughout the living room, as if the door had given way. I didn't hear anything after that. The silence was thunderous, a void where chaos had just existed. What happened next felt like a blurring of visuals and sounds. The neighbor's laughter bounced softly outside, an eerie counterpoint to the chaos inside. "Why so scared?" he called, his tone almost taunting. "I just wanted to talk." I crept toward the window, noticing the woman looking over her shoulder at me, fear etched on her face. Her eyes widened as I got closer to the glass, and I knew I couldn't leave her behind. I turned back towards her. "We need to stick together. We can't let them in," I urged, my voice barely above a whisper. But then I saw something out of the corner of my eye, a flicker in the darkness beyond the door. It was brief, but unmistakable. A shape moving, and it was not alone. My breath caught as I registered the shadow of another figure behind my neighbor, hunched and watching. "Is anyone there?" the deeper voice sang once again. "Don't you want to know why we're here?" An uncomfortable chill crept up my spine. Suddenly, the lights in the room flickered, then shut off completely, plunging us into darkness. I felt the woman's hand grasp mine tightly. "What's happening?" she begged. "Stay close," I whispered. Fear coiled around me, tightening with every second lost in silence. And then I heard a slithering noise from somewhere in the house, like something dragging across the floor. I turned, the knife glinting weakly in the dim light. The shapes outside exchanged harsh words, and I found myself wondering how deep this nightmare would go. "Someone's in the house," I breathed, realizing the terrifying truth. They weren't here just to talk. In a flash, the door rattled again, more forcefully this time, as if the hunters were ready to pounce. My mind raced. We had to find a way out. But the back door? The windows? The darkness felt suffocating, and with it came the weight of dread as I prepared to face whatever awaited us. And just as I thought I had gathered my courage, the lights returned. Hope surged momentarily until something beyond the door shifted unexpectedly, sending a tremor of fear through me once more. I pressed my back against the wall. Then I saw a shadow moving through the hallway. Someone was definitely in the house. The shape in the hallway loomed larger as my eyes adjusted to the light. It was a figure, its features obscured, moving stealthily, almost deliberately. I glanced at the woman beside me, her fear mirrored my own, widened eyes betraying the thoughts racing in her mind. I couldn't afford to lose her now. "Do you see it?" I whispered, gripping the knife tighter. She nodded slightly, breath hitching in her throat. The shadows flickered across the walls, casting ghostly forms that danced in time with our growing panic. I edged closer to her. "We need to find a way out." The words felt heavy as I took a step toward the hallway. The idea of confronting whatever had invaded our space was terrifying. But staying here felt like a death sentence. Suddenly, a thud echoed through the house, making me jerk back. "What was that?" she whimpered, glancing towards the noise. "It came from the kitchen." Maybe it's just the pipes," I stammered, trying to convince myself. But deep down, I knew it was something else. The unmistakable sound of footsteps followed, slow and methodical, closing in on us. I moved toward the kitchen, the knife out in front of me. The air felt thick, almost suffocating, as I hesitated just outside the doorway. Somehow, I felt I was being watched. "Stay behind me," I ordered softly, more for my own reassurance than hers. The shadows danced again as I peered into the kitchen. The light flickered above, revealing remnants of dinner, food left on the counter, utensils scattered across the floor. And then I saw a door standing ajar, leading to the basement. The thought of what might be down there sent a shiver down my spine. "Is someone down there?" I called out, my voice trembling. No answer came, only silence that echoed back, reminding us just how alone we really were. Before I could second-guess myself, I took a step forward. The floor creaked beneath me. I expected the woman to follow, but her hesitation stopped me. I turned to see her staring at the doorway leading to the living room. "What if they come in?" she breathed, voice barely a whisper. "Then we'll deal with it," I said, even though the words felt flimsy. I needed to keep her close. With a cautious glance to the basement door, I made my decision. "We have to go through the kitchen." "I'll check." Taking a breath, I stepped into the kitchen. The door creaked as I approached the basement. I could feel every nerve in my body screaming at me to run. As my hand reached for the knob, another loud crash erupted from the back of the house, panic tightening around us like a vice. "Not now," I muttered under my breath, torn between the oncoming noise and the darkness below. I hesitated, heart slamming against my ribcage. The woman behind me was clearly losing her grip on hope, and I couldn't blame her. "Please," she begged softly, "let us just leave." That was when I heard a low growl resonating from within the shadows of the basement. My blood ran cold, and the dread pooled in my stomach. Then everything went dark again. I gasped as the darkness enveloped us, swallowing every shred of light. The growl lingered in the air, more palpable now, hanging like a heavy fog. My mind raced. I couldn't just stand here. I needed to make a choice. "Grab the knife," I said, my voice firmer than I felt. I felt a jolt as she turned and reached for it, clutching it tightly. Her fingers were shaking. We were in this together now. With my heart thudding in my chest, I pushed the basement door open. It creaked ominously, and I peered down into the blackness. Instinct told me to retreat, to run from whatever waited below. But I had to know. "Stay close," I warned, stepping lightly down the first step. It felt as if the house held its breath, waiting to see what I would do next. The smell of damp earth and mildew hit me like a wall. I took another step down, and the wooden stairs groaned under my weight. Just as I reached the bottom, a sudden crash echoed from the kitchen above, causing me to whip around in panic. "What was that?" I hissed. The shadows shifted around me. Whatever was upstairs had found its way in. I felt her hand grip my arm. "We should go back. We should get out now," she urged, voice trembling. "No. We can't go back now. If it's coming in, we'll be trapped," I replied, forcing some resolve into my tone. "Stay here. I'll check." I stepped deeper into the basement. A soft light flickered around the corner, illuminating what looked like a makeshift workshop. Tools hung from the walls, and a flickering bulb hung low over a workbench, casting eerie shadows. My pulse raced. This place felt wrong. "Come on, we have to go," she whispered fearfully. But then, I noticed something out of the corner of my eye, an object barely visible under a sheet. I couldn't ignore it. Something tugged at my curiosity. "Wait," I said, moving closer to investigate. The sheet was crumpled, revealing the outline of a large box. That's when I saw it. A strange symbol painted on top, twisted and dark, like something out of a nightmare. My heart raced. "What is this?" I muttered to myself. Suddenly, a loud crash from upstairs shook the floor beneath me. Adrenaline shot through my veins. "We need to go." I shouted, grabbing her hand. Just as we turned to flee, the basement door slammed shut with a deafening bang. I yanked on the knob, panic clawing at me. Open! Open! I shouted, but it wouldn't budge. A low growl echoed again, this time closer. My breath quickened, we weren't alone anymore. Let us out. I banged on the door, desperation rising like bile. Someone help us. That's when the murmurs began, thin, slithering voices creeping in from the dark corners of the basement. My skin crawled. I felt her grip on my arm loosen as fear enveloped her. Then, out of the darkness, something shifted. A shadow broke away from the wall, creeping toward us. My blood ran cold. I had no idea what it was, but whatever it was coming for us. I stood frozen, paralyzed by fear as the shadow drew closer. My mind raced, but all I could focus on was the sinister shape filling the dim light of the workshop. It loomed like a giant, its features indistinct but somehow menacing. Please, just hold on, I whispered to her, my voice steadier than I felt. We couldn't let fear overtake us. The knife in her hand glinted dully, a small comfort. The figure stopped, hovering just beyond reach, and began to morph, twisting and contorting into something humanoid. Panic surged through me again. I was struck by the thought that this wasn't a mere shadow. It was real, whatever it was. Stay behind me, I said, stepping protectively in front of her. But as I took a step forward, the creature let out a low growl that echoed like an emotional wound. It raised a long arm, pointing directly at us. What do you want? I croaked, desperation bubbling up. To my surprise, the whispers intensified, surrounding us like a swarm of buzzing flies. Words became clearer, forming a jumbled chant. I strained to make sense of it. Get away, do not disturb, seal it. I could barely breathe. This was real, and whatever was happening, we were part of it now. Before I could process it any further, the creature lunged forward, the shadows around it pulsing as it moved. I yanked on the door handle again, but it remained stubbornly locked. I turned back to the nightmare only to find it had vanished, leaving behind a crackle of energy in the air where it once stood. What was that? She gasped behind me, still clutching the knife, eyes wide and fearful. I don't know, I admitted, trying to calm my racing heart. But a sudden noise from above cut me off, frantic footsteps pacing overhead. They were heavy, dragging across the floor, like someone was looking for us. My heart sank. It wasn't just the shadow, there was someone or something upstairs. Listen, I whispered, straining to hear. The footsteps paused and then fell silent. My instincts screamed at me. Whatever was up there could be worse than what we had just seen. I turned back to the workbench, desperate to find anything that could help us. Then I saw it again, the box beneath the sheet. I pulled the fabric back, revealing a series of odd tools, each marked with that same symbol. A chill ran down my spine. What is this? I muttered, as I felt the weight of dread settle over me. Maybe we need to break that door down, she suggested, her eyes darting nervously between me and the closed door. No. I snapped, not wanting to draw attention to us. But my voice trembled. If we make noise, we might just attract whatever's upstairs. Before I could reason through my thoughts, the box caught my eye again. I hesitated, but my curiosity overwhelmed my fear. I pushed it open. Inside lay a tattered book filled with unsettling illustrations, each page depicting the same twisted symbol and scenes of people standing transfixed, unable to escape. Every instinct screamed at me to run, but I couldn't tear my gaze away. Then, the air thickened, and the whispers returned, more insistent than before. This isn't just a basement. It's a trap. Just then, the basement door shuddered, and then the growl returned louder, closer. I slammed the book shut. We had to move, now. But just as I turned to her, a shuffling sound made my blood run cold again. I knew we were running out of time. There was no way we could stay hidden any longer. Something was coming, and it was hungry. I shoved the book into my side and gripped the knife tightly. "We need to get out now," I urged, fear pushing me toward action. "We have to find another way." Together we sprinted toward the basement stairs, adrenaline fueling our every move. The door rattled again, ominous and threatening, the growl echoing grew louder, more menacing as if it reveled in our panic. I reached the bottom step and pulled at the handle. "Please, please," I whispered in desperation, shaking it furiously. My heart sank when it didn't budge. "What do we do?" The woman's voice trembled. I could see the resolve fading from her eyes. "We look for something to break it down," I said, trying to sound surer than I felt. The shadows dancing around us felt alive, twisting and contorting, growing more restless by the second. I scanned the room for anything we could use. My eyes darted around the flickering lights of the workshop. That's when I spotted a rusted crowbar leaning against the wall, almost concealed in the shadows. "Over there." I pointed. Hesitation gnawed at me. I didn't want to lose any more time, but I knew we needed it. We rushed to grab the crowbar, and I handed it to her. She peered back at me, doubt clouding her expression. "Will it even work?" "We have to try," I replied, my voice steadying only for the words and nothing more. "On three," I said, forcing a fragile confidence. 1, 2, 3. She swung the crowbar, crashing it against the door in a way that sent ice through my veins. I slammed my shoulder against it just as she struck again, and the door shuddered. "Again," I urged, and she swung a second time. The wood splintered beneath the impact, revealing a sliver of light between the cracks just enough to ignite my hope. "Do it again," I shouted, and she struck once more, the door bulging under the assault as my heart raced with the rhythm of panic. "Come on." And then, with one final strike, the door gave way, creaking open and slamming against the wall. The light poured in like salvation. I barely registered the fact that the growl intensified outside. "Let us go." I grabbed her wrist, pulling her through the opening. The hallway beyond looked abandoned, but I could feel the oppressive weight of something lurking in the darkness. The basement door swung shut behind us with a groan, a gentle reminder of the horror we'd narrowly escaped. We raced down the hall, not daring to stop. The footsteps I had heard earlier were gone, but I felt eyes on me, on us, draped in an invisible cloak of dread. I just wanted to get out of the building. "Where do we go now?" she asked, her breath quickening. "Outside," I gasped, but the air felt denser with every step we took. The front door loomed ahead, but as we approached, I froze. Our neighbor was standing outside, silhouetted against the moonlight, his head cocked unnaturally to the side. His expression was eerily calm, his smile still wider than what felt right. "Look who decided to join us," he called, the sing-song quality of his voice sending a chill down my spine. "We're leaving," I shouted, panic rising. "Oh, but you can't." "Not without knowing the truth." He stepped closer, the shadows stretching behind him as if they were alive. We weren't safe yet. Before I could even respond, the growling returned, echoing behind him. It seemed as if the nightmare was closing in, drawn to his presence. I exchanged a glance with the woman beside me. The expressions of uncertainty we held mirrored the chaos around us. "Run!" I yelled, and we shoved past him, bursting through the door into the night. The air hit us heavy and sweet, a contrasting relief from the suffocating fear inside. We stumbled down the porch steps and darted into the street, branches snapping under the weight of our breaths. In that split moment, I felt the tension ease, like the invisible chains that had bound us were finally breaking. But as I dared to glance behind us, I saw the shadows spilling from the house, merging into something darker, more congealed. The weight of the neighbor's gaze lingered, even as we sprinted down the street, a feeling of impending pursuit. Igniting our fear once more. I still think about it sometimes. The nights I spent in that house are etched in my mind, the neighbor's smile, the shadows lingering in spaces where they shouldn't be, and the whispers that had beckoned from darkness. I moved to a different city after that. I've never been back to that neighborhood. Sometimes I wonder if it was all in my head, but the feeling that something was wrong still lingers close, and I try not to think about what could have happened if we hadn't escaped.